Hey, it is the hamster wheel that is content creation. I'm John, and I'm Richard.
Oh, yeah, I'm Richard. I'm sorry.
This is Bronze and Modern Gods.
We've never done that before. Sorry.
No. Hey, follow us on Facebook and Instagram. You know the handle. It's at Bronze and Modern Gods. If you like this video, hit like and subscribe. Blah, 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 blah. Richard, March. We're coming in like a lion.
Yeah, the year is speeding by. We're coming up to spring.
Hi, how are you feeling about the market, the comic book market? You were watching Heritage stuff this weekend, were you not?
I was. There was a lot of golden age romance up on Heritage, and I pinged you about. I mean, a lot of it. I was pretty impressed with the volume.
It was a good auction for people like me that are into that. There was one book I was following. It was Young Love or something like that with like this almost all black cover, but it was significant because it was the first cover by John Buscema
Oh,
from the 50s. And so I put a little stalking bid on it, like $140, see where it would go. It closed at like $880.
yeah. The market. I think the market is in a better place. Um, Keys are stabilizing. I think if you're looking to buy a key, now is a good time to do it because I don't think they'll go any lower, to be honest with you. Uh,
As someone who sells these books on live sales, I'll tell you what, if they're priced right, people will still buy.
mhm.
It's people that are still holding on to, God bless you, their Department of Truth number ones, 9.8, and so they want, $150 for it. Not so much.
Yeah, yeah. You can't go by 2021 prices. You really have to look at it realistically at what the market is. But even still, there are some books that never dipped or dipped very little, and those are those are the books that you should chase.
A golden age is holding on strong. A pre-code horror, I would say Bronze Age horror is
CP
still
horror.
holding strong.
Mhm.
If you are not following our good friend David and his channel, still only 35 cents, please do that because he went to Emerald City Comic Con and he's done a live stream that shares a lot of what his reflections were on that convention. And we have WonderCon coming up
Yep.
very soon. So lots of stuff going on, including something that, I don't want to say Richard and I told you guys. But I'm gonna say, Richard and
You're
I
gonna
told
say.
you guys, it's Hot Book of the Week. Richard, you may have the pleasure of gloating.
A hot book this week is Johnny Quest #5 from Kamiko. It is the Dave Stevens, one of the Dave Stevens covers. Looks like everybody's finally caught up to us and has Dave Stevens fever.
I say that, we say that because, if you've watched this show for longer than 6 months, we always were beating the Dave Stevens drum here, and we were shocked that these books were so undervalued. It's not the case now. The 90-day average for a CGC 9.8 for Johnny Quest #5 is $957 with 3 sales. There was also a sale, last sale on eBay for a CGC 9.8 that I missed here for $1,000. So it has now hit the 4-digit mark. That is nearly double the 12-month average, which was $545, Richard.
Ah, it's amazing. You can get raws on eBay right now, but they're selling for 150 up to $200. Now this is for a book that forever was a dollar bin, $5 bin book. It has been insanely underrated, as a lot of Dave Stevens' work has. The Rocketeer stuff has garnered more attention, but he did so many other covers that are just amazing. Um, is
Alien
Ardams?
Worlds.
Pardon?
Alien Worlds, that Alien Worlds cover. You've got, not to steal your thunder, you've got an underrated book this week that you're going to talk about. Another Dave Stevens cover, Crossfire and Rainbow #3. Uh,
Right.
there's DNA
DNA
Agents cover.
agents.
Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
lot out there, and this has exploded in the last few weeks. And I can say that because my LCS had 2 copies of this up on the wall for about 20 bucks, 25 each. And I thought, you know what? I'll pick those up. I always grab Dave Stevens covers when I feel like it, and I thought, they're priced right. Here we are, a little less than a month later, and boing. Yeah. So you were going to ask a question.
Yeah, is Art Adams the next Dave Stevens in terms of Catching Fire, or are we going to see Dave Stevens books pick up like Art Adams books have?
I think what you might be asking, tell me if I'm wrong. Dave Stevens is catching fire now after so long, and I think Art Adams covers have not been as hot as you and I think they are.
Really, you think so? I mean, I
Young
guess.
Allies is an outlier. That Young Allies 6 is such an outlier because it's a ghost book.
Oh, it is a ghost book. There, I see a lot of parallels between both of these artists in
Oh, yeah.
terms of, they have a very loyal fan base, a very distinctive style. You never confuse an Art Adams cover or Dave Stevens cover with a different artist. And I think that art is, this is just increasing in value. Now we still have Art Adams with us, which is
Mhm.
amazing. So we'll still see more work from him. But everybody has to remember Dave Stevens, he died back in 2008, I believe it was.
Yeah.
So, the artwork that he has out there, the comics that are out there are the only ones there will ever be. He won't be producing new work, so, I think that also is gonna help the value of these books.
There's also lots of hidden Dave Stevens collectibles out there that people may not be looking for. The Comics Journal cover that he did with
Mhm,
the harem woman modeling for him. There's just all sorts of little Dave Stevens pockets of things. And also in just the macro picture here, 80s independence. We're talking about a Kamiko book. I'm surprised weird things like the Eternity comics, like
mhm.
Ninja High School. You've talked about Ninja High School. The Trouble with Girls is problematic as the one of the authors is. Um, you've got Robotech, things like that, that people are, these 80s independent books, which we have taken for granted for decades, are really scarce in 9/8. The
Yeah.
Crow? Anyone?
That's a very good point. There are, the 80s indie books, the classic black and white Love and Rockets,
Mhm.
Cerebus, books like that, were low print by their nature. They were low print run, and high grade books of those are difficult to come by. Is that going to be like we've seen the run on Golden Age, and is that going to be a future point where people are going to pick up those books, and the value of those rise? I think now is a great time to buy that stuff.
They were bought and read.
Mm,
Your collection of Love and Rockets,
right?
reflects that. This Johnny Quest is a great example. Look at this cover. Look along the spine.
Uh-huh.
Solid black with the exception of the ore that Johnny is holding. Super tough
Yeah.
in high grade. It's so tough in high grade. That's why, you're seeing $1,000 for a
Right.
9.8.
And things like Cerebus, these are tough to come by in high grade.
Look at that
Or
humble
you,
brag. Oh, by the
well,
way,
well, this is a fake one. I wish it was. I wish it was a real one. It just happened to be laying here. But yeah, this kind of stuff. This is what I grew up. You grew up. This is, and when we actually had, we had money to buy stuff, right? We weren't 7 or 8 or 10 years old anymore. We had
yeah,
money to buy stuff, and so this is the kind of books that I would buy, and I would read. I would buy them, go to a restaurant, and sit there and read comic books, drink my shake,
yeah.
and yeah, I
Let's
was not
let's do a
reading
little
them with gloves or anything like that.
Right, right. We read them. Let's do a little experiment with Richard. Ready, everybody? Okay, Richard, you're gonna be my test subject.
Uh-oh.
You're at a convention, you're walking around, and you come to my booth. And at my booth, on my back wall, I have a really nice copy of the Elementals #1.
Oh, really? I'd love it. Yeah,
Would you ask to see it?
I would.
That's what I'm saying. Nobody thinks about that when they're putting books out on their walls. Where were we? Oh, it was San Diego Comic-Con last year when that one guy, the dealer Steve that I know, had all those 80 books out on the table, just stacks and stacks of it. And you saw the feeding frenzy, right?
Yeah, it was crazy how many people were just picking up stacks, stacks of books. It was ridiculous. Uh,
Yeah. And they were like Badger and Nexus. I mean, it wasn't things that you guys would think, "Oh, there's not a movie coming, so I don't care."
Mhm. Yeah.
But well, you bought a bunch of stuff from him, didn't you?
I did. Stuff I didn't need, but
Right?
I couldn't pass up because, they were there. Um, I'm trying to remember when something specific. He had, oh, no, I can't.
I know Pacific Brews, we were buying, Pacific Comic Brews,
Right.
a lot of just general, like, I bought a bunch of Captain Victories from him, stuff like that, that people are forgetting about,
Yeah.
so, just out of curiosity, you guys, let us know in the comments, what do you think about '80s indies? Is this the next frontier? Are we crazy? Are we drinking our own Kool-Aid?
Yeah, I love to let's put a pin in this and let's talk about this in March of 2025 to see if there's been any traction in this.
If the planet is still here. Hey, support the show. Just a reminder, if you want to help us survive the coming apocalypse, you can be a member
Mhm.
here on YouTube. I don't know how that will help, but just for the cost of $2.99 a month, everybody out there, I'm going to pause and give you a chance to say it with us. It's less
Less
than
than a Starbucks.
$4, exactly. Or heck, less than a copy of a new Kamiko comic book if they were to put one out today. You can show your support and get a few perks, exclusive live member only streams, which we have on Fridays where you guys come on for show and tell. We've had different members guests the last 3 weeks.
Mhm.
Extra show and tell episodes, shout outs like this. More names, Richard. Names. I'm going to have to change this to a scroll now.
Ah, it's awesome. Thank you so much, everybody.
In fact, if you don't see your name on there, here's a chance to help Richard and I go to more shows and provide more coverage in this year of 2024. Just hit join right next to the subscribe button below. Show and tell now. Ah, okay, I'm going to start.
Life with John is always an adventure.
Never boring. It's often annoying. Uh, yes. How about Weird War Tales number 2? Look
Oh,
at that cover.
it's
It's a Western Union. Oh, here, you want to describe it?
yeah, it's you got a Western Union telegram that says, "We regret to inform you the death of Private um, John
Um,
Case on November something at 2:20 a.m. The Department of the Army." And then the woman's crying on her mother's shoulders. "Oh, Mama, I just had a horrible dream about Johnny." And
whoopsie.
she's holding Johnny's picture. So yeah, a little premonition.
And look what time is on the clock.
Oh, the clock. Yes, the clock is saying
2:20
2:20.
a.m. Oh. And now what was cool about it, great Joe Kubert cover. Interesting Weird War Tales. A strange mashup of war genre and horror. It can only happen in the early 70s. And it's mostly reprints though.
Oh,
Yeah, there's a new framing, story in the beginning, but it's all reprints at this point, a giant size issue. The first 4 issues, I believe, were all reprints, and then it went to new stories.
yeah. I was going to ask. I mean, is that story actually in that book with poor Johnny and his
That's a
girlfriend?
great question. Let me read it to all of you right now, each page. I'm
because
not sure.
because Golden Age, Silver Age books just love to draw you in with the cover and then give you nothing inside even related to it.
DC's, uh, notorious for that back in the day, where they would, come up with a cover and like, I guess we'll write a story around it or not. It's up to you.
Slap it on the front.
Yeah. If you look at the weird in Weird War Tales up
Yeah, what is
close,
that?
it's bones.
Oh my goodness, that is
Yeah,
that is amazing.
yeah. So just a really great mashup of 2 of our favorite genres, Bronze Age war and Bronze Age horror. And it ran for 124 issues. So one of the more popular DC titles in the 70s.
So is the we've had there's changing world environment. Do you ever see the war comics coming back?
We haven't romanticized war the way we used to,
Right.
as a country. You used to, I was in the army. I'm a veteran, so I can say this stuff. I'm giving myself a pass. It used to be. something aspirational to defend your country and
Mhm.
to volunteer and to serve. Now, oh gosh, I don't want to get political, but we had a common enemy, the Nazis. That was
Right.
an enemy. I think everybody shook hands and said, "Yes, we agree. This is bad." And then Korean War, not so much. Vietnam War, even less so. Uh,
Mhm.
then Gulf War that I was in. Just so many debates about where to go, what to do, and that affects entertainment.
It
So
does. I mean, there's no black hat, white hat like there was in the Second World War, you know?
I would say the one time if you were going to capitalize on war and try to revive that genre, it would have been after 9/11.
Mhm.
And I
Yeah.
don't anybody took that opportunity to be jingoistic and launch a war title.
Wow, jingoistic. Wow, I'm Uh,
What is your first show and tell book?
my first show and tell, we had a great members only, chat, on Friday, and it was, we had Brett on board. He came on, and we were talking about things, and he was talking about how he likes to collect, um, villains,
Yes, first
Marvel
appearance.
villains, first appearances. So, and it had me thinking about what makes a good villain, because Marvel, DC try to create villains, and like Punchline. We're gonna make someone, and we're going to market that person, and that's not how you make a great villain. You make a great villain by telling a great story.
Right.
And I've got here, um, Daredevil 181, Bullseye. Uh, in my opinion, made himself. He was made to be a great villain. This is the death of Elektra.
Who's the
Um,
villain on that cover?
Pardon?
Who's the villain on that cover?
I What do you mean?
I see more than one. You're thinking Elektra's a good guy?
No,
Yeah.
that's true. Electro is an assassin.
Yeah.
But I'm looking at it from Matt Murdock's eyes.
Sure, go ahead.
Um, Bullseye is also an assassin, and they are fighting a battle to the death, and Bullseye manages to win it. And I think yeah, that's a very good point. I guess villainy is in the eyes of the person who's writing the story, right? And in this case, the story is told from Daredevil's perspective, making him the villain. Um, but anyway, yeah, it's a great. This is one of my favorite Daredevil storylines. The Elektra saga, and so this is an important book, and like I said, I think this made, this solidified Bullseye as being a primary, um, villain for Daredevil.
Yeah, it really is, pretty good of Frank Miller and at the time before he left, Roger McKenzie, who actually brought Bullseye back and reimagined him along with Frank Miller as this assassin. Because before Marv Wolfman created Bullseye, in like I think issue 131, and you had things like he tied Daredevil to a giant crossbow and launched him into the ocean. You know,
I love those 60s
yeah.
villain. Yeah,
It was very, superhero villain, whereas this was just a little more gritty and street level, and, I noticed, by the way, that's a newsstand. It's a little newsy you got there.
it's a little newsy. Yeah, this
Yeah.
is from my original collection. This is one of the
Oh,
books
wow.
that, yeah. For those who are on the podcast, it's got, you got Daredevil in the background, and you got Bullseye and Elektra in the foreground, and you got a bubbles that says Bullseye versus Elektra, one wins, the one dies. So
Place your bets, folks. Yeah, so there you go. Shout out to Brett for, being a guest on Friday. I hereby nominate Brett to be my substitute host to represent fellow bald white guys with beards. In
he did a good job of doing that. Yes, he did.
remember when I was showing we were talking just now about war comics and how we had a common enemy in
Right.
the Nazis? I bring you Blitzkrieg #1. This is searing battle sagas of World
Oh,
War II as
mhm.
seen through enemy eyes. Do not shoot, Hugo. Orders are orders. They are enemies, and this is war.
Did you read that book with that voice in your head?
That's all I do. I pretend I'm Heidi Klum on
Ah,
America's Got Talent. Und shoot, Hugo. Sorry, go on.
that's I've heard of that series. I don't believe I've read any of it.
It's very different. It only lasted 5 issues, and it was kinda bold for 1975 to launch a war series told by the point of view of the Nazis. Are they the heroes? Not really. Do they lose in every story? Not really. Are there a lot of violent covers? Oh yeah, all 5 covers are you have a woman being pushed into an oncoming train by the Gestapo. You've got um, English, I think, believe British paratroopers coming down with the Nazis mowing them down with machine gun fire as they're
Geez.
landing and yeah, great series if you like war titles. And I was happy to get a full run of Blitzkrieg. So there you go. Look at the eyes in the logo.
Little lightning bolts over them.
Little SS lightning bolts over the eyes. We are not glorifying this. We're just remembering history, people.
Mhm.
What do you?
Let's see. I've got Marvel. Okay, I one of Marvel's worst jobs at naming comics. Here's Marvel Point One.
What does it
There,
mean?
I don't know. They did like 4 or 5 different point ones. Um, Sometimes it's all new, but it's always this point one, which makes it just a joy to look up in GPA to try to find the value of something.
What is it? Point one. What? Call it Marvel Spotlight. Call it Marvel Premiere. Marvel Point One. What does that mean?
Yeah, I don't know. I've never gotten. If anyone in the audience has any idea why this particular series, it's not even a series of books. It's a bunch of one-offs
Yeah,
that
one shot.
share a title.
Ugh, old man yells at cloud.
Yeah, this happens to be this is the first appearance of
Sam?
yeah, Sam.
Sam
You can see him
Alexander?
right here, right here. He's Nova. You can see him right there.
No, he's not.
He is a Nova. He's
There's
of the
only
Nova Corps.
one Nova for Earth. That's right.
Sam Alexander is Nova. And there's this. This is the A cover. There are some B covers as well. This book is important to me because um, when I got back into comics, one of the first things I did was go to one of our local comic book stores, Keith's Comics, and I had was going through. They had a bunch of back issues on the counter, and I was going through the long boxes and came across this, and I looked the value up on it, and it was like $200 at the time. The
Boing.
price is crazy. Okay, this was back when the whole grading system was still new to me because before I just bought comics, I didn't grade them. So a 9.8. So every time I looked at the value of a book, it was the 9.8 value. Oh wow, this book is $500 and it's a piece of ratty peep, newsprint. So that's how I looked at the world at the time, everything through that 9.8 lens. So this is an expensive book. They were selling them for $4 a piece. I
Mhm,
bought
and all of them, right?
Yeah, I bought all of them. Yeah. This started my relationship with the with Keith's Comics that turned not adversarial, but he was wary of me when I came to the counter with a stack of comics, and there was like Ultimate Fallout 4 second print. I bought 8 copies from him because he had them sitting there, and I did it. I bought 4 because I felt guilty taking them all for $4 a piece. And then I said, "Screw it." I went back and bought the other 4. And he's looking at me, and he at the time he was using Overstreet to determine value. So he was selling to, after that he started using the online services, which are a little bit more timely. But yeah, so this book always holds a special place in my heart because it's one of the first spec books I ever bought.
Why you bring Carrie with you? Leave her in the car to read her book or whatever, and then when you need her, bring her in and have her buy half of them.
Oh, that's a good point.
Not that I ever do that with Raphael. My last show and tell book is nothing special. It's not an expensive book. It's just when those confluence of loves all come together in one cover. It is Captain America number 44 from the 2000s run, Dan Jurgens.
That is so John.
And it is a takeoff of romance comics
Mhm.
by and you have Cap with his girlfriend at the time saying, "Now that Connie knows my secret, will she still love me?" And Connie is like, "Oh, Steve, Cap's the real or Cap's who wait, what does it say? Oh, Steve, Cap, who's the real man I love?" And there you go. Little cute tribute to romance comics here. This was a great, so underrated run of Captain America. I loved this run. It came after Mark Waid's run. Dan Jurgens took over. He wrote and drew it. He brought back Donna Maria from the Kirby run from the 70s. He introduced Connie, who was a lawyer. I believe she was an immigration lawyer.
Mhm.
It was a great love interest for Cap. And Dan Jurgens left the book. They moved it to Marvel Knights. They tossed everything out. Yeah, I would say the book was never this good again until the
Mhm.
Brubaker run, where he brought back Bucky, created the Winter Soldier. That was a great run, and then it just until the current run, which just relaunched with issue 1 6 months ago. So this takes me back. This is when I was reading Cap and just couldn't wait for each month.
Oh, it's got in the corner boxes is the running Cap because he's always running. He's always late. Somebody needs to buy him a watch.
Very
He's
late.
he has a heart behind him, and the Captain America logo is in pink, and oh, it's a pink heart too, by the way.
Yes. And if you're looking at the legacy numbering, this would be issue 511. If for those of you who
Mhm.
like the legacy numbering, like myself.
Yes, that is definitely a John book.
Yeah, and I wish they would be consistent with the legacy numbering. Some books have them, some books they say, forget it, we'll stop it, and then they bring it back, and it's very confusing. What is your last book?
My last book is the storyline that we've talked about here. This is House of X #1. This is one of the variant covers. This was a really, really, really interesting story. I enjoyed it. I have not enjoyed X Men for a while, and Hickman did a great run with um, giving the X Men their own autonomy. They had the living island of Krakoa, and they basically told the rest of the world, "Screw you, we are here, deal with us." Uh, and of course, it didn't last, but because you can't have happy X-Men. It's just you will just never have them, you know, dancing around the maypole or anything like that. There's always has to be strife and challenge. But for a while, it was interesting and it was great. The story was cool. This issue, the House of X and their Powers of 10. This there's 6 books in both series, and it was interesting because it was this whole time jump thing. They had different timelines and different stories throughout the different timelines, and they were all interlinked because Moira McTaggart, her ability was multiple lives, and so she was linking all these different um, realities together, and it's a great story. It was very creative and very out of the box, and I thought it was really good. So I celebrate that story with this particular cover.
What an escape hatch. We grab anybody from any multiverse and bring them back and any time, and you know,
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I mean, it was all through all of history. The mutants were persecuted. It was just what level of persecution, and then it was humans, and it's a very dark storyline. But I thought Hickman navigated it well, and at the end of that storyline, set up the X Men for a continuing series. So it was
someday I will read it.
oh God.
Another ongoing joke about for longtime listeners, House of X. And if you've been watching and listening to the show for a while, I've promised to read that. I don't know how many times, and I still
You know
haven't.
what I'm going to do? I am going to just scan the book and then send you every couple days a different page.
Can I read it using my Apple Vision glasses?
Yes, you can.
Oh, if you guys
Absolutely.
wanna make fun of Richard for having a pair, you can do the show in a segment we call Viewer Mail.
You've got mail.
I'm dying because I'm coughing while I'm trying to talk about viewer mail. Our first piece of viewer mail comes to us from our email address at bronzeandmoderngods@gmail.com from Jake Garris, a new name. Hi, Jake. Richard and John, good day. Good day to you, sir. I doff my imaginary cap. I love your show. You both seem like seasoned comic convention goers. I hope you don't mind sharing some advice. I've only been to two very small local conventions here in the Bay Area, and I found them to be great. I got to meet Larry Hama, but a bit intimidating when digging through long boxes. I have a list of books I'm always seeking, but frequently find books I didn't know I needed, and then I get some FOMO. That's how it works. My budget isn't large, so I'm selective with the books I add to my collection. It's those occasions for which I'm unprepared that are awkward. I see a book I want, like, need, but I have no idea what a fair price is. Is it okay to grab my phone and check fair market value data on a website or two? Should I step away from the dealer so as not to offend? Or is there some less awkward way to avoid foolishly parting with my dollars and still walk away with a good pull? Thank you for any tips. Also, I know if anyone will appreciate this, it's the two of you. When I was a kid, I had a few comic book records, including Captain America 168. And when nostalgia kicked in, I couldn't resist adding this to the collection. There's his cap 168 from Power Records. And a phoenix shall arise. Night Patrol. Hey, Cap, what's going on? What's with the long face? You look like you lost your best friend. Sorry, Sam. Sorry. Can I
Ah,
quote the
it
entire
sucks to have a best friend who has a photographic memory.
I
I
can
always feel
I
like,
can tell you how many times I listened to that record when I
yeah.
was a kid. All right, convention etiquette. You are the customer, Jake. Guess what they say about the customer? You're always right. And that's the case here. If a dealer gets offended because you whip your cell phone out and you want to make sure that you're paying a good price, they are not a dealer you want to support slash buy from, period. Uh,
Mm,
Dealers aren't dumb. They know what you're doing. You don't have to hide. You don't have to go in the corner and come back. If they see you with your phone, they know what you're doing, believe me. And I think it's a smart move. I think it gives you a good bargaining position. If you go on, you see the book is dipped, then you can say, hey, this you got 250 for this. It's kind of dropped a bit. Would you take 200? You don't want to offend anybody. Don't lowball ridiculously, and you want to approach it in a respectful way. You don't want to go say, God, you still have these books priced like it's 2021. Jeez. Yeah, then you're going to get not what you want in
right.
terms of a response. But I think you're fine to look things up. People aren't dumb. They know what you're doing.
I will say, one thing I would recommend is while you're doing that lookup, step away from the booth. If it's like if you're at any convention, there are going to be well, if there are a lot of people there, there's a press of bodies up against.
Oh yeah.
Um, it's going to be you're going to be that guy if you stop, pull out your phone, and it's just take up real estate while you look something up. That, in my opinion, is rude. Step away so other people can look. Do your research, and then come back and then talk to the vendor and try to make a deal. You have a budget. I love the fact that you have a budget. That's a great thing. I always bring cash. Okay, here's how much money I have to spend. I have cash. As yes, John is laughing because
You guys know the story. Go on.
so, and the advantage to that is I don't pull out my credit card. I don't go to PayPal. I know when my pocket is empty of cash, then I'm done shopping. And it's a great way of as you're going through the day at the show, counting you can see how much money you have left. You have a good gauge as to what your budget is. What's left of your budget. Avoid the FOMO for oh, I can't tell you how many times there's been a book, Fantastic Four number one, for example, that comes up as an opportunity, and you have the ability to buy it, but do you really have to? And I would say no. I mean, for most of the books that are out there, there are you know hundreds of examples, if not thousands, out there besides the one you have in your hand. So if you don't get this one, maybe you'll get the next one and the one after that. There are some books, though, that they're one of a kind that you'll only come across very rarely, and so there's always that exception to the rule. But for the most part, if it's a Marvel book, more than likely you can find another copy of it somewhere. So
One little addendum to Richard's suggestion. If you are at the booth and it's crowded and you want to move, make a little stack. Don't lose your book that you're looking at. Just move to the side and let other people
mhm.
over while you're doing your research. Or if nobody's there, just, F them. Keep going.
Yeah, if there's nobody there, then just do it. Yeah. And John's right. You're the one that has the money. The power is in your hands. If you don't want to buy it, don't buy it. So the dealer's job is to get the money from your hands to his pocket. So he's going to work with you to make that happen.
Now, Jake, caveat, been collecting for decades. There are some dealers that are just big grumps. They're nasty. They are rude. They don't care that you're the customer and you're always right. Get ready. You will meet them. They will make you feel bad. It's a psychological warfare tactic. Don't fall for it.
Mhm.
Richard, what is your first piece of your mail?
My first piece is from Manny. He left a message on the bronzeandmoderngods.com website. Hi, John and Richard. Thank you for recommending the trade paperback X-Men Days of Future Past Doomsday.
That was
My
you.
father passed away recently on Tuesday. Very sorry. Our condolences for the passing. And I really needed a positive distraction as I make arrangements for his final resting place. I took a slight breather, brought the trade paperback from my LCS, and read it at home. I was a big fan of the original storyline when it first came out and had bought the X Men issues off the stands. I enjoyed the trade paperback story, and it made me smile. Now I can continue making final arrangements for my father and now working on his eulogy, in which I will mention that he was the one who sparked my comic book obsession by buying a 4-year-old boy his first comic book. It was Batman in 1972. Always looking forward to the next show. Keep them coming, guys. Thanks again, Manny Galang. Well, Manny, again, our condolences for your father's passing. He's going to continue to live through you and the deeds you do and the passions you have that he shared with you, like comics. So, thank you so much for sharing this story. I love these stories that connect the collecting hobby with people's lives. The trade, the Doomsday storyline. Um, was a dark one, but it was interesting and it filled in a lot of gaps. So I'm glad you found value in it.
Manny, our condolences. Thank you so much for writing and stay strong, buddy. My next piece of your mail comes to us from Instagram. Someone slid into our DMs. His name's Carl, and Carl Talona writes, "Hey guys, can you talk a little about the difference between tanning, foxing, discolorations on a book, and what positive techniques you have tried to conserve the comic? I have an Amazing Spider-Man number 62. This is the Medusa cover with that
Oh
great
yeah,
wide background. For a book from 1968, it looks great, but I was wondering what techniques are out there to clean the background and still get a CGC or a CBCS unrestored label. I am of the age where I am beginning to think about passing my books down to my kids, and I want them to have an easy way to know the condition of the book. By the way, listen to you weekly. Thank you for any insight." Thank you,
thank you.
Carl. Thanks for writing in. All right, let's talk about the difference between tanning and foxing. Tanning is when the borders or the white part of the cover and inside get tan. Just what it sounds like. The pages start to get brittle. You don't want tanning. Tanning is bad. Foxing is kind of like discoloration, little dots, little brown dots, some sort of mold, not quite
Mhm.
mildew. And that's the difference between tanning and foxing. If I had to choose between the two, ugh. Foxing is not as bad, Richard, you think?
I would go the other way. I think
Mm,
tanning uh, you could use whitening to remove tanning. Foxing is an actual. Um, I think it penetrates the surface of the paper.
Well, you
There we
can use the same techniques to get rid of foxing too. These technique Oh, sorry, go ahead, you were gonna say.
Oh, no, go ahead. You have more experience with this type of resto.
There You guys have heard me talk about Captain Mike with a K, uh, KAP, Captain, and MYKE. Captain Mike has 2 books on Amazon, one about pressing and one about, wait for it, ding, 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 the stain removal and whitening techniques. Caveat: I've read this book a billion times, I've watched a billion YouTube videos. I have not dipped my toe into the blue light or the hydrogen peroxide whitening techniques. But guess what, Richard? Guess what,
Mm.
Richard? I bought all the equipment this week.
Oh, no. Are you going to try it?
No more talk. I'm going to try it. I've got my test books here. I'm ready to go.
All right.
So,
Record it.
oh,
Record
I
it, Joe.
will. Absolutely. Carl, I can't give you uh, firsthand knowledge. I can just tell you what I've learned from watching other people. You can go too far, especially with white covers. The temptation is to use that blue light and those techniques to make it bright white, like it just came off the newsstand. It looks great. Dead giveaway when you are being graded. Get ready for a purple label for that
Mhm.
sucker. So you've got to know when to say when. Yeah. If it's just a little tanning, you want to get rid of it, great. If it's really a dark halo on the interior covers, you're playing with fire because you're going to get rid of it around the outer edges, but it's going to still be there and near the centerfold unless you really deconstruct the book. And oh,
Mm.
geez, you're looking at a purple label for sure if you don't know exactly what you're doing. It's too dangerous. So stay tuned. That's my answer.
Yeah, you know what? And I may be I don't know how I fall on this, but that cover and the Craven cover, I think it's 42, something
Mhm.
like that,
Yeah.
where he's also standing in, the white background. I love the patina for those
Yeah.
covers, you know? They get kind of this um darker it's interesting. Yeah, I think there's a lot to say for a book that shows it's been around for decades. Not everything has to look brand new.
Yeah.
Um, so keep that in mind. Just because it has a patina and is not crystal clear, perfect virgin white, doesn't mean that you have to go through this process to improve.
I've waited so long to try this because I am a bit of a purist. I
Mhm.
don't like messing with it too much. The only books I'm really gonna mess with have stains, like
Mm.
that Patsy annual I've had forever that I use as an example with a big water stain on it. I'm just gonna try to remove the water stain, and then I'm gonna be done. So stay tuned. I'll let you guys know how it goes. Richard, what do you got next?
My next piece is from Peter Eddy. He dropped us an email at bronzeandmoderngods.com. I'm sorry, at bronzeandmoderngods at gmail.com. I don't know if you watch Comics Are Dope, Dope's YouTube channel, but he did a great video talking about the All Negro Comics #1. He gave a detailed summary of the stories and highlighted a 75th anniversary reprint with additional stories. He has a link to the retailer Hive Comicade who sells the book. I ordered one so that I could read the stories. BJ Hicks discussed how there are strong parallels to the Lion Man story and the Black Panther character created 20 years later. Great overall video. If you haven't watched it, definitely worth watching, worth viewing. Yeah, thank you, Peter. I appreciate you reaching out. I did watch the video. It was a great video. He went into detail about the artist writer and talked about the different storylines that were in the comic and talked about some of the challenges as a publisher that he had to deal with. It's To me, it's a testament to a man's self-actualization. He wanted to he wanted to produce a comic book, and against all odds, he made it happen. Now, unfortunately, he wasn't able to sustain that because of external forces, but it's an amazing book, and I have my copy is over there. I have a low grade as low as you can go, point 0.5 of that book. And it's one of my core collections. It's very dear to me because it reminds me that um, tenacity and perseverance can win the day. And so I think of that every time I see that book, and inspirational to me. So I did hear about the 75th anniversary reprint. I've been thinking of picking up a copy. I have read the book. There are some online copies of it where you can read it without having to actually open my slab. So, and it's it's typical 1940s. It's not high reading. It's meant to be entertaining to an audience that is not into superheroes for the most part. So it's a good book. So thank you so much. I watched his video. I subscribed to his channel, and I love the fact that he managed to bring this conversation up here on the tail end of Black History Month.
Uh, are you gonna get one?
Oh, the 75th anniversary?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I'm eventually going to get one.
All right. My last piece of viewer mail comes to us from bronzeandmoderngods at gmail.com from Chris Langley, who writes, Hey, John and Richard. I recently acquired a stack of Bronze Age comic books that the seller claims were stored for many years in an attic. The books look great, all in fine or very fine condition, but they smell. It's a musty smell with what I think is a hint of motor oil. Ah, my
Mm.
favorite cologne. Which makes me think they may have been stored in a garage. Do either of you have any tips or suggestions on how to get the smell out of these comics? Much appreciated. Love the show, Chris. Thank you, Chris. Yes, it's radical. I've got two ways possible. You know how we make a humidity chamber using a big sealed tub? Fill the humidity chamber dry, no water, with baking soda at the bottom,
Hmm.
and then put your book raised up on cylinders, whatever you can use, so it's not touching the baking soda. Put the books on a tray above the baking soda and seal the tub. Leave it a month, maybe. Take it out. Books should smell normally. There's another crazy thing you can do. Put them in the freezer. Yes, that face right there. Don't put them on ice or anything. Just put them in the freezer in an open container at the top and see if that gets rid of the smell. Believe it or not, I have gotten rid of the smell of comics that have like a musty odor
Mhm.
by putting them in the freezer for a few hours. Waiting for the comments on this one. I'm sure there'll be 8 billion people telling me I'm crazy. There's also a cedar chest and mothballs. That always does the trick as
Mhm.
well. Uh,
Another suggestion is get them graded and put them in a slab, and therefore you won't have to smell them anymore.
get micro chamber between each page. All right. So good luck, Chris. I
Good luck.
can't wait for the comments on this one. You guys have any ideas? Throw them in the comments. What is your last piece of your mail?
My last piece is from Xbox Gamer 3389. Uh, I don't know how magazines stay around. I used to collect them. We were talking about magazines and their existence in 2024. Um, Magazines like Death of a Musician, a tribute issue to a certain band. But when I saw it was around $15 for the People magazine for the Godfather 50th anniversary, I was like, nah, never mind. I did buy one today,
The
but
news?
the news in them gets so quickly outdated. It's difficult to justify the price. Yeah, there. When we were people of a certain age, John and I, and when we grew up, the newsstand was the source of truth. You had People magazine, you had Newsweek, then you had all of the hobbyist magazines. Like I was buying computer magazines, I was buying car magazines. I was big into cars, still am. And of course, comic books and comic related Starlog, science
Mhm.
fiction. That was a huge, huge magazine for me. And you waited every month for that issue to come out because that was your source of information. There was no internet. There was no group conversation that happened. So your news was divided into 12 segments across the year, or you had an annual, so maybe 13. So yeah, now though, since we do have the internet and we do have other means of communication, the magazines that are out there now serve a different purpose. They are more um, impulse buys in the checkout. If you notice now, instead of being a newsstand section where you've got magazines, dozens of magazines, and multiple copies of the issues. Now, you go through the checkout because now checkouts are it's kind of like a cattle being herded towards slaughter. To go to the register, and then they're the magazines. But instead of being 40 copies of Newsweek, there's maybe one, maybe two copies of some Royal special, or the best stereo, or not even stereo because people don't buy stereo anymore, but the best
Lots
TVs to buy.
lots of cats, like,
Yeah.
and the Beatles.
So it's serving a different purpose. They want you to buy these things as you're bored waiting in the checkout line. I want so it's not serving to be informative like they used to be. Now they're more solidly entertainment, and even low grade entertainment, because you if you do spend the $15 on one of these issues, you'll read it once and then it'll go in the bathroom, or it'll go on a stack, because people don't even read magazines in the bathroom anymore. They have their phones. So yeah,
Disgusting.
it's
Remember that when someone hands you their phone.
yeah, oh yeah. So yeah, magazines are not what they were when I was growing up, and I don't know if that's a bad thing.
Yeah.
I reveled in them because they gave me that information hit once a month. Um, Now I'm mainlining it right from the internet for whatever I'm interested in: comics, watches, cars, whatever my particular hobby happens to be at the time. I just go out to the relevant news sources and pull information to me, as opposed to being waiting for it to be pushed to me through magazines.
It's interesting because I don't buy magazines at all, but I bought one a few, I guess it's been about a year now that I think about it. And it goes to what you were saying, um, uh, Xbox Gamer, about hyper targeted magazines. It was Time Life published an ABBA tribute magazine, and it was 14.99, and it was just nothing but articles and pictures of ABBA. And I saw that, I was like, well, yeah, that's coming home with me. Um, so that must work, because impulse buy. I saw that and paid $15 for it. Just a reminder: if you are a fan of the Archie heroes, like the Shield, the Fly, those mighty Crusader heroes, the new issue of Archie Jumbo Digest has a new story featuring the Shield and the mighty comics heroes.
Hmm.
So it's $8.99 for the digest. But if you like those guys, go check it out. It's the new Archie Jumbo Digest. I happened to see it at the grocery store. I remember back in 1998 when Archie Digests were just $2.99, $3.99. I don't know. That was like 25 years ago, Richard. It's the 25-year old. 25 years ago, I didn't have old man phlegm. Sorry, everybody. Richard, I'm going to put the cover up here right now. Look at that.
Oh, that is so 90s.
For those of you on the podcast, we're looking at the cover of J2 #1 from Marvel in 1998. Yes, it's Juggernaut to the 90s extreme. Snap into a Slim Jim, Juggy.
It
Yeah.
is definitely so 90s.
Look, see his little flannel around his waist there,
Oh,
'cause,
oh my goodness.
he listens to that grunge music, which was, 1998. Was grunge still a thing? This was one of 3 titles launched for something called Marvel Comics 2 by Tom DeFalco. Featured future versions of the characters, usually the offspring of major characters. For example, this was all inspired by the success of Spider-Girl in that issue of What If.
Mhm.
The 3 launch titles were Spider-Girl, A Next, which was, the Avengers in the future, and this thing, J2, the son of the original Juggernaut. This title actually lasted 12 issues, a whole year. The only survivor to go beyond that from this entire line was Spider-Girl, which not only survived, but it went on for about a decade. Remarkably resilient title, running for years, always threatened to be canceled. They would announce the cancellation, fans would come up in arms and start letter writing campaigns and internet campaigns, and they would reverse the decision. After a while, it became almost like a marketing tool. We're
Mm.
gonna cancel Spider Girl. Oh, sales are up. Thanks, everybody. The only real key for this series, J2, would probably be issue number 5, which introduced Wild Thing, the daughter of Wolverine.
Jeez, Wolverine really needs to keep it in his pants.
Wild Thing. She's extreme. She's 90s.
Did
Uh,
did did they call him J2? As
I
it
don't
was
know. They called him Juggy,
Chucky.
which, doesn't look good on a logo. So, uh,
Um,
I like Tom DeFalco. I like Ron Lim. I don't like this. I liked Spider Girl with Ron Friends. I think Ron Friends had a lot to do with it. But this was kind of like DC in the 60s with Teen Titans, when they would speak groovy hip slang that was outdated. That's what this reminds me of.
mm.
Uh, oh, J2 issue 1. You can grab it if you really want it. High grade copy off eBay for about $4. Issue 5 for the first appearance of Wild Thing goes for a little more than that, $10, $15, depending on condition. So there is a minor key hidden in there. Did you guys read the M2 books? I started. A Next was okay. Spider Girl was really good. This was junk. Dark Devil, which was the Daredevil one. Wild Thing, she got her own little mini series spun off from this. The Son of Hercules was in A Next.
Yeah, that's Marvel loves to do this. They love to have the offspring, and like, it's just so lazy. It really is just lazy.
I don't know, Flannel and Doc Martens in '98. It was over by then. I mean, was Lane Staley dead by that point?
Oh, I don't know. It definitely smacks of a bunch of old men getting together, trying to make something hip for the kids
Yeah.
today.
This is Bush to Nirvana. This is Candlebox. This is to Mudhoney.
Mhm.
This is okay, I'll stop. Let's move on to our underrated books of the week. Richard, let's go back to the beginning of the show.
Yeah, we were talking about Dave Stevens. My underrated book this week is, oops, stick in there. Planet Comics #1. Um, this is a book that has a from 1988. Blackthorn published it. Blackthorn Publishers put it out. It is gorgeous. This is an example of Dave Stevens art. You can see I have a number of these. This is one of those books that whenever I see it, I would pick it up. And so this one is a pretty high grade. It needs a press, probably a 9.4. That yellow cover is difficult, but this is bait and switch. You got a beautiful Stevens cover. You open it up, and the artwork is not
Don,
as it's not done heck bad, but it's not that great.
by the
This
way,
co-
everybody take a drink. The Don Hector drinking game.
this cover has been homaged over the years a number of times by Adam Hughes, a variety of people. It's just iconic. I love it. It's a gorgeous cover, and it, in my opinion, is one of Dave Stevens' best, and it's still affordable. Prices have been going up, but you can still find them out in the wild for a reasonable amount of money. Reasonable, I'm saying, under $100. Um, Prices have been going up though. 9.8 just sold in January for $1,227. The
Boink.
average for 2022 was $650. So this book has doubled in that 9.8 grade. There was 66 9.8s on the census right now, 416 total. But there's two 9.8 signature series. Now, if
Oh
those two are signed
wow.
by Dave Stevens, that is the book to chase. Those are the books to chase. I would easily pay $1,200 for one of those books. Um, so yeah, keep an eye out for those. And I think it's just an example of all things Dave Stevens rising in value. They're still not, in my opinion, um, unaffordable. I think they're obtainable. I don't think everyone has caught on. I still go through crossfires, a bunch of crossfires, and I can still find a Dave Stevens or there's Seduction of Innocence, of the Innocents, which is another cover. You still find those in $5 bins. That's
Elvira, House of Mystery, people forget about.
Elvira House of Mystery. Yeah, there's once you know his art style,
Mhm.
you could flip through a stack of comics and pick them out, even if you're not aware of the title. Um, and also just look for Dave Stevens signature. He has a pretty distinctive signature right there. So,
That book is so hard a 9.8 because it is a stiff cardboard cover.
mhm,
Uh, and if it gets a spine dent, you can press it out, but it kind of stays in the paper fibers, and you can still see the wrinkle where the spine tick was. So it's very, very hard book in 9.8. Oh,
yeah.
look,
Oh,
I didn't mean to do that. So yeah, good pick. My underrated book this week is I don't talk about my favorite superhero enough on this podcast, so we're talking about him twice today. And that is Captain America. It's Captain America 310. This is the first appearance of the Serpent Society. The Serpent Society was a group of snake-themed supervillains
not
who,
like Hydra at all, huh?
not like Hydra, well, very different than Hydra. The Serpent Society, they weren't in it for world domination. They weren't in it to get revenge on superheroes. Nope, they were there to make money. So they unionized. They created a union for supervillains. You had to be a snake-themed supervillain, number one. There were rules. You had to pay dues. You took assignments. Go rob this bank. Go, extort this person. Go take this one hostage. And then you got paid based on your performance. And in return, you got health benefits. You got a salary and
Mhm.
more. Hilarious. Friggin' Mark Grunwald is hilarious. It was written, I wouldn't say as a parody of unions, but just kind of like a statement, I guess.
Mhm.
Really funny. And this is the first appearance of the Serpent Society. Of course, they had a leader. Some people didn't like the leader. They revolted against the union leader. They tried to. It runs through almost the entire Mark Grunwald run of Captain America, which is over 100 issues. It's really funny. This the Serpent Society are actually rumored to be part of the new Sam Wilson Captain America. There's that thing again. I'm not sure why it keeps doing that. The Brave New World movie, supposed to have the Serpent Society in it. So as a result, a CGC 9.8 of this book last sold for $345. Only one sale last year, so there's not a lot of data on this, but it's just a great read. And I want to give a shout out to the late great artist Paul Neary, who drew this run of Captain America. He passed away last week.
Oh,
And it was kind of sad. He's done a lot of stuff, mostly as an inker over Alan Davis is probably where you guys know him. He did a lot of Captain Britain stuff. So, just a long run on both Captain America and the Thing solo title for a long time. So, shout out to Paul Neary and Captain America 310. All right, everybody, you got over an hour. We're done with you. Thanks for watching, and make sure you hit subscribe if you haven't already. If you haven't told a friend about the podcast, tell them what they're missing. They're missing things like this. Yes, lasers, fireworks. We'll catch you.
we're cheap entertainment. Everybody stay safe.